The amount of changes that the HHS, the Health and Human Services, have made in the last 24 hours is mind-blowing. Now, for some people, they're going to look at this and say, man, this is absolutely amazing. This is positive. This is great. Other people are going to look at this and say, OMG, what is going on here? This is destructive. This is awful. That's going to hurt so many people and things. And I guess it kind of depends on what side of the aisle you're on, how you view this. Listen, Squirrel Tribe, let me explain what's happening here. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or Bobby, as a lot of people like to call him, basically Trump's right-hand man outside of Elon Musk, obviously, he is the head of the Health and Human Services. I keep wanting to call it Human and Health Services, but it's same thing, back and forth, whatever. HHS. These are 4 headlines, just 4 headlines that have come out in the last 24 hours, and they're all different, and I need you to hear every single one of them. Listen, the first one here. Trump HHS eliminates office that sets poverty levels tied to benefits for 80 million Americans. All right, that includes, what do we have here? Medicaid and food aid and all these different things. The second headline that has popped up, Trump fired the top HHS watchdog. Okay, so that's going to be interesting. Then we have here, RFK Jr. says HHS will determine the cause of autism by September. Well, it's April now, so we don't have that many months left before he decides or hopefully determines what is causing autism, because it has been said, there has been a massive spike in autism over the last decade or so. And so now that you have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in there as the head of the HHS, he wants to find out what the root cause of autism is. And so maybe by September, we will have an answer. Might not be an answer any of us like, might be an answer that all of us were kind of like, kind of assumed that was it. You just never know. But what's crazy to me, the fourth headline, which technically isn't RFK Jr. related or HHS related, but kind of falls into that category, is this. You guys ready for this? Idaho makes shock move on vaccine mandates in first of its kind bill. Now, when I saw this article, I was like, ooh, this ought to be interesting. What's happening here? Because anytime you hear the word mandate, obviously your interest is piqued. And anytime you hear the word vaccine, your interest is piqued based off of everything that's happened over the last couple of years through C-19 and now with RFK Jr. in as the head of the HHS, right? So Idaho, they have banned vaccine mandates in schools and businesses. They're calling it a first of its kind medical freedom bill. What Idaho's calling it is the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. And basically it bans or bars private businesses, schools, and government entities from denying admission or services to a person for not having received a medical intervention, including a vaccine, procedure, or medication. Now, where this is extremely interesting is right now we're having, what they like to tell us, what mainstream likes to tell us, is a measles outbreak that we haven't seen in decades, since measles became a vaccine that a lot of kids were required to get in order to enter public schools. Well, now you have Idaho saying, hey, listen, we're not going to make you have to get any of these things in order to go into school, which is crazy to some people and amazing to others. There are so many people who are on one side or the other of to vaccinate or not to vaccinate. I don't know a ton of people that are right down the middle, but this is a huge deal. So according to this, it makes Idaho the first state in the nation to outlaw the vaccine mandates in both public and private sectors, meaning public schools, public businesses. So if you have a business and you're going to hire somebody, you can't require them to have certain vaccinations in order to have a job. You can't require the students to have certain vaccinations in order to go into these public schools. And I like how they said it makes Idaho the first state, which means that they are expecting more states to follow suit with this ban on the vaccine requirements. Now, it could be because RFK Jr. is in office and the information he has given out in the past couple months has swayed people and obviously some politicians to looking at vaccines a different way, but we're not quite sure exactly what's going to happen with that. So it says the legislation was signed into law. It is law now by Idaho Governor Brad Little, who is a Republican, and is expected to go into effect on July 1st. So before the next school year starts, it will go into effect. The legislation comes as vaccination rates fall throughout the U.S. and exemptions for medical and religious reasons climb. A lot of people during the C-19 pandemic, especially when you were told that you had to have a certain thing done in order to keep your job, or there were some states that mandated children had certain things done in order to go to school. A lot of people were trying to find medical and religious reasons why they could basically bypass having to get that vaccine, right? Especially when you look over what happened in the last couple of years with the kicking out of military personnel who would not get certain vaccines and people losing their jobs. It became this massive kind of divider amongst the country, the do's and the don'ts, like the people who will do it and the people who won't do it, the businesses that mandated it and those that did not. And it became a massive divider amongst people and their friends and their families. And to this day, even now, what is it, April 11th, 2025, there are still conversations going on about, well, did you do it? Why did you do it? Are you mad that you did it? Do you wish you hadn't? Especially with all of the new information that has come out lately about the possible effects of the vaccine that was given over the last couple of years, right? Now, excuse me. It said these declines have been blamed for the nation's measles outbreak, which has infected more than 500 people in Texas alone. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist by any means necessary, but the fact that it's affecting a state that has had a massive open border issue over the last couple of years, I see a little bit of irony in there, especially when it's not saying anywhere that I have looked up that it is American citizens who have been having these measles outbreaks. Now, I did look at a lot of stuff, and they did say in a lot of these articles and publications that I came across and research, what are the words? The not survey. That's not it. Y'all, I don't edit. So you have to watch me sit here and try to figure out how this works. Like a hamster in a wheel right now, or a squirrel would make way more sense. The test that they do, studies. In the studies that they've done, they are saying that in Mexico, there is a much higher rate of vaccination amongst people, the population, than even here in the US. And we have a very high population or a very high rate of vaccination. But they're saying in Mexico, it is like a 98% vaccination positive country. So for the measles outbreak to be happening, a lot of people are saying, well, it can't be from the open border and the illegal immigrants because a lot of them will be vaccinated. It's going to be maybe somebody brought it through somehow, but now you have people here who are no longer getting vaccinated because of what happened over the last couple of years. It's put distrust in it and whatever else. Maybe because of RFK Jr. and the things that he's talked about, a lot of people are not doing these vaccines anymore. And now you have, so far, I believe 2 children have died from measles. But at the end of the day, a lot of people will say, if you are vaccinated, you are safe. If I am not, and that is on me and I am unsafe. If you are vaccinated and I have the measles, I won't be able to give it to you, so you should be fine. So a lot of people feel like vaccinations should be on a person by person decision because it's your life. And so you should be able to decide if you want it to be covered and safe according to health officials with vaccines, or if you want it to be more open and susceptible to unsafe issues because of non-vaccines, again, according to doctors and whatnot. Now, what's crazy here is Idaho is also one of the three states that have introduced legislation this year to ban mRNA vaccines like the C-19 vaccine due to reports of severe side effects. They are one of 3 states. If passed, the legislation would ban mRNA COVID vaccines for 10 years, meaning it would give the manufacturers or the scientists or whatever of these mRNA vaccines 10 years to really work it out, and for Idaho and the other 2 states to see what really happens over that 10-year span. They want to have a longer study field, a longer, I don't even know the right word, y'all. This happens so often and I do apologize for it, but sometimes my brain just cannot catch up to what I'm trying to say. They will have a longer field of study basically to figure out if this is safe or not safe. And then in 10 years, maybe they go, okay, we'll allow these mRNA vaccines, but for these next 10 years, we're not going to do it because we want to see exactly what's going on with other people who are getting these throughout the country or the world even, because a lot of the vaccines that are out now, the measles vaccine and all these other ones, mumps, everything else, they've been around for decades. They have been proven according to scientists and doctors and health officials and whatnot. And this one, the last one that came out, the mRNA vaccine, was kind of quick for a lot of people, although scientists will have you believe that they were working on it for years and years and years ahead of time. Yeah, okay, Fauci, whatever. But at the end of the day, I just want to show you, this is Brad Little. This is the gentleman, the governor of Idaho, who has put all of this into effect. And the businesses and government facilities will be banned from requiring interventions for employees, admission to venues, transportation, or providing products or services. So they can't say no for anything if you don't have a vaccine, is what it comes down to. Now, public and private schools, including university and trade schools, would also be blocked from requiring vaccines and other interventions for school attendance, employment, or entrance into campus or school buildings. The HIPAA laws, where you're not allowed to ask certain questions, they're not allowed to require certain information. This is basically going to add that into it for Idaho. You can't ask, I am assuming this, that you can't ask if they've been vaccinated with certain things. If it's something that can't stop them from giving you service, there's no reason why they should have to require a yes or no answer, right? Because then there is the possibility that somebody could break the law and not let you into school, not let you into a business, not let you into their Uber or their Lyft if you don't happen to have a certain vaccine that they feel that you should have. So this is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out in Idaho. Now, again, it doesn't go into effect until July 1st. So until then, there's always the possibility that there could be some tweaks and changes. It's already been passed as law, so hopefully there will be no changes, but we'll see what happens there. It says Little signed the bill last week after vetoing an earlier version of it days before. The revised bill notes schools can still send home sick children at their discretion. So if you have a child who happens to show up to school and they seem to be unwell, you can't say, well, it's because you didn't get this vaccine, but they can say, you don't seem to be feeling well. We are going to send you home until it seems that you are better. Or maybe they can even require that that child goes to a doctor and gets checked to make sure that they are okay. I'm not quite sure exactly how it's going to work. It's not all completely laid out here. But at the end of the day, you have Idaho, who has already done this. And then these are your other states that are considering bans on vaccines. That is, it's not a lot, obviously, but the second you have one, somebody else is going to jump on board, then somebody else, then somebody else. And the next thing you know, this could be a countrywide thing, especially now that you have President Trump at the helm and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the helm of the HHS. There's the possibility that there could be some changes over the next 4 years federally on how they deal with the vaccines for just anything in general. Will be interesting to see exactly what is going on there. But I just wanted to give this information to you guys. It says here, during the 2023-2024 school year, 14% of kindergartners had a vaccine exemption, more than 3 times the national rate. And this is in Idaho. Now, the next closest state, they said Alaska has a 10% exemption rate. And then Idaho also had the country's lowest rates of polio and chickenpox vaccines in the age group at 15% lower than the national averages. But you don't hear about any of these kids or any of these issues having these peak outbreaks or anything like that in Idaho. So maybe something is okay there, you know what I mean, with the not having them versus the having them. Just something to know and to take into consideration, especially if you have children and you are, they're going into school or you're planning on having children and they're going to go into public schools. This may be something that sways people to move into Idaho. But on the flip side, this could also be something that sways a lot of people to leave Idaho with their children who happen to be in a public school system. It's going, like I said, it's a very hard line down the middle for a lot of people on the yes or the no's when it comes to vaccinations in general, especially lately, right? So this could have really good consequences. I don't know if you can say good consequences, but this could have bad consequences or good repercussions. Still don't know which word goes with good there for Idaho. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly how things play out over the next couple of years once this law goes into effect. If there is a spike in any illnesses or if everything stays pretty flatlined or if there's even a lowering of anything. So the more you know, right? That's kind of how I feel about this. So thank you guys for being here for this conversation. Hopefully it was helpful, beneficial, educational, informative, whatever word you want to throw in there. And I will see you guys again later. Love you. Bye.